this on. I love that's become a thing, by the way. You know that, right? All right. It says I'm not on. Zuckerberg says I'm not on, but I know I am. There we are. And let's record this to the cloud. Now there's no escape. All right, let's pull that up. Get that going. All right, everybody. Here we are. It's the Liquor Talking. It is day five of Go Whiskey Week. Today, we're going to actually have two seminars, and we're starting off with a great, and I think maybe not everybody knows this great whiskey from the Isle of Skye. It's Torabhaig. And I have, for all those things you've been wondering and curious about, Bruce Perry is here. He is the global ambassador of Puba of Torabhaig Distillery, and he knows everything about this whiskey. And we're really happy to have you here with us today.
Very happy
Bruce.
to be
Thank
here.
you so much. No, you're not, but that's okay.
True.
Yeah, I knew it. But this is sort of a pretty cool endeavor to be really the second distillery,
Yes,
distillery,
second legal one anyway.
second legal one. Everybody. Okay, so let's go back for a second. Everybody has a founding date,
Yes.
and then they have the real date. And then it goes, well, this is 18 something, and that's our founding date. But we've been making whiskey 50 years before that. The tax man just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, that's the only difference with you guys. Yeah. Your founding date is your date because guess what? The government is a little bit more on the no on all this stuff. So you can't really sort of get away with that.
And there's a bridge to Skye, which makes it a lot easier to get over
there.
And check
that's right. Yeah. To check things out, the government to check things out. All right. So why, just out of curiosity, why Skye? Because it's still, even with the bridge, it's still sort of a remote place.
Yeah.
There's, limit. Obviously, you're on an island, so there's always limited resources. There's always all this stuff, and it's beautiful. I get that part of it, but what was sort of the reasoning behind doing a distillery on Skye?
Well, Neil MacLeod Mattison, who's the CEO, whiskey maker, and all around.
Bottle washer, they do everything. Yeah, I get it.
Does absolutely everything. His middle name there is MacLeod, and there's a clue there. Yeah. So the land.
There can only be one. From the clan MacLeod.
Yes. Well, so he is, or his family originated in Skye.
Okay.
And he knew round about. He knew for a long time the owner of the land that we ended up buying that became Torabhaig. So he was very keen on Skye. I think probably a little bit for personal reasons, but also this very, very old cattle steading, which was a ruin when we got it, had two water sources. And also we felt Skye was just somewhere really, really special. And exactly as you said, there had only been one distillery there since 1830. So it presented a lot of...
Started in 1802 illegally. No, I'm just teasing.
Well done. It was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity back in around about 2013, 2014.
Nice.
To acquire the site.
Oh, great. And so what was sort of the main theme that you were looking to accomplish? Because every distillery sort of has a vision of what their whiskey is going to be.
Yes.
And sometimes it follows that vision, and other times different circumstances take it in a completely different direction too.
Totally, because having a vision of what you want to make, I think we can probably call that art.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get in the distillery on the first morning, we're definitely calling that science.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the big question on day one is, can the science deliver the art? But back to your question of what was that vision? Well, the vision was born out of twofold reasons, really. First of all, Neil himself, he was an importer of a very, very high quality spirits company before this time. And they really were the very, very small producers, but very high quality. And there was always a little suggestion of finesse, of elegance, of nuance, of subtlety. So it was no surprise, certainly to me, that he went down that route. But secondly, looking at the Isle of Skye, I don't know who's been to the Isle of Skye here or watching online, but Skye is magnificent. It is truly beautiful in a very wild, untamed sort of a way. It's rugged. The weather is mostly insane. It is.
That's what I'm always looking for when I'm looking for a place to live. Insane weather.
Yeah, insane weather and dark for half the year.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's settle here. So kind of used that as the muse. It's also very peaty. So Neil went for very high ppms in the grain. And for those of you not familiar with that little bit of terminology, it references phenolic parts per million. It's how smoky the barley is.
So you're definitely using peat to dry the barley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, but what we didn't want to do was to make a searingly medicinal whiskey. That was absolutely not his style. And also, everybody felt that the beauty of the Isle of Skye would be best reflected in a whiskey of finesse, of delicacy, of nuance. So I like to call the vision an elegant interpretation of heavy peat.
I think it's sort of cool because Skye is known to be very stormy.
Yeah.
And tasting the whiskey, I've done, several of these things. Tasting the whiskey, they tend to be very calming. So it's almost a juxtaposition between the elements and the weather of the Isle in comparison to like the whiskey.
Yes, I think
I don't think the weather on Skye is like elegant with finesse. It's like
no,
it's like battering ram.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. I have walked across the courtyard just trying to put my coat on, and it's behaved something like a sail and just about picked me up and put me roughly where I was going anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
But yes, no, it is really at times the wind and the rain lash. I was back in early 2018, January 2018. I was doing just a couple of little shifts in the distillery, just getting to know everybody and also getting a feel for what I might talk about when I came out here. And it was January, 9 o'clock at night, something like that, and the wind was piling the rain in through that pagoda roof that you can see there, and it was hitting the stills. And you could hear it. It was like a xylophone being played. Ping, ping, ping. You're running around with a little tea towel, which is completely futile. And
I'll clean that up. Clean up at aisle 7.
I'll have hopeless. But yeah, that's the sort of weather that you can face. But our photographers happily turned up on a very nice day for that photograph there.
The one day a year when the sun was shining has been captured forever with Scott. Scott knows all about this, right? That's a dream, right? Scott is our photographer. He's like, yeah, that's it. He goes, that's a retiring shot. Okay, I'm done.
Yes.
That's it. Goodbye.
Yes.
All right, before they get a little too restless out here, they've had a lot of traffic today. Been a crazy day for traffic here in Massachusetts. Unlike any other day. It's been a crazy day.
Special.
It was special. Yeah, today was very special. Somebody messed up. So let's start on the whiskey and see where that takes us.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's our first whiskey that we're gonna try today?
The first whiskey that we're going to try, and you're very, very fortunate to be trying this one because this is the 2017, which is sold out all over the world.
This is it. This was the first one.
This was the very, very first whiskey that we ever produced. Yes. So when we would just talk there about.
This is not available, so enjoy this one. This is one of those ones that's gone.
It is gone. If you can find it, buy it. But I wouldn't know where to find it. It's as rare as hen's teeth these days. But I was just mentioned to you earlier, we were talking about.
Or an easy drive from Boston. That's how rare it is.
No, you could find it easier than that.
I have that. So, do I have a rim shot here somewhere? I think I do somewhere. I'm just going to get that ready for you because I don't want to miss that again.
There's loads of those coming.
There's loads of those, dad jokes galore, everybody.
Yes. God, I hope my kids aren't watching. We just talked about the vision, and then getting into the distillery on the first day, and that being the science. So when we first started, it was the first incarnation was very good, but it obviously would have been surprising if it had been perfect, and of course it wasn't. And so the idea was just to change one thing at a time, slowly, 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 to
sort of dial in.
Exactly, move the science to meet the art, if you like. And that took really the best part of a year. And that was it then. At that moment in time, that was the recipe for Torabhaig 10-year-old in the future, if you like, sort of established. But by this time, we'd made about 2,500 casks, somewhere in there. And for us, this represented our journey from infancy through to that which would become 10-year-old and the future. And this is a rare opportunity because you don't really normally get to see a distillery finding its style. So we took the 2,500 casks, and some of them anyway, and divided them up fairly arbitrarily and used them as the foundation for our first few whiskies. Because what we're really inviting you to do is come on the journey with us. On this journey to 10-year-old. And so this was the very first one. This was 55 ppms in the grain and was 100% first fill bourbon cask. And this was really the first release of our elegant interpretation of heavy peat.
And this is also, just so you know, this batch is only made up of 100 barrels. And the ABV on this one is 46%, so 92 proof. And so I'm assuming no chill filtration on this?
No chill filtration.
Okay.
And
no color?
You can be promised no color. Yep. We don't have a chill filtration machine, so that's real simple.
The only thing that would happen is if it got real cold out. Maybe.
Yeah, no chill filtration, no coloring, and that does say that actually on the label somewhere. So,
what do you guys think? I love it, and I can't. I want some more. No, you can't have any more. This is it. Right, because it is gone, but I like this one, and it's app. I don't know if I read the I'm reading the box. I'm like a kid with like cereal when I have whiskey. I usually have the box or the bottle out, and I'm drinking it, and I'm like, when you eat cereal as a kid, and you just like the TV might not be on, you just read the box. This is the only thing around, and I saw the peat and brine, but this does have a salinic flavor component to it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think,
and it crosses that bridge because I don't think you have a lot of that iodine in the peat. I think you get more of sort of a maritime quality with the.
I think that's absolutely right. Certainly, the iodine that one might expect from a peated whiskey is not apparent in ours. And as I was saying to you earlier, what we didn't want to do was make a searingly medicinal whiskey. That wasn't a style we were looking for. We wanted this floral, delicate, elegant, light-bodied style. So one of the things that we did, we ran the stills quite slowly to get lots and lots of copper contact, but then we're cutting relatively early for a heavily peated whiskey. So we run a 15-minute.
You cut early so you wouldn't get a heavily peated whiskey, right?
No, not so. It's heavily peated, right? So peat is made up of
right. But why are you cutting so early? That's what I want to know.
Because we want a delicate interpretation.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. You're not dipping into the oily and the stuff like that,
yes.
right?
Yes, it's light. Okay. It's light on the cressels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we ran the still slowly to help us get this light-bodied, and then cut very early. And so this is the style that we've got here. But I think it was a very, very successful first release. The famous author Dave Broom, World Atlas of Whiskey, gave it 5 stars, and that was
Dave Broom's going to be here, by the way, April 30th.
Is he?
He's opening his. We're on his new book launching tour.
Oh right, yes.
So yes,
the 3rd edition.
I'll ask about it.
You ask him about it. He will. He better.
No, he better. I wrote the check. He should. No, I'm just teasing. But Dave does not operate that way.
No. Let's be clear. He does not.
He does
Absolutely.
That's what I like about him.
But yeah, that's right. No, completely the case. So we were very, very happy with our first incarnation. But equally, there was a ways to go on this journey. This is a very young whiskey. I mean, my tasting note, I've just kept a note here for myself just to remind myself from back in the day. It's quite simple because it isn't yet the most complex thing known to man. It would be kind of surprising if it was, but it's a really great way
it's
of
a whiskey
introducing
that
ourselves
shows
to the world.
promise.
Exactly so.
You know,
Exactly
you can
so.
taste this and say, okay, here's when I first tasted, and Brian brought this in for me to try. When I said, there's the potential. It's solid. It's solid, but I can see where they're going, and there's potential.
Yeah.
And I think for, you know, with somebody coming out with their first run, I've seen people put things in the bottle and put out there and go like, what were you thinking? You should never have done that. You don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
But this one was like, okay, you know, that's a solid step foot forward.
Yes.
And I can see where they're going with this.
And one of the things I'm most proud of this is that Neil only used first fill bourbon casks, 100% first fill bourbon casks. For me, that shows the whiskey. I call it naked whiskey. You get to see the character of the whiskey. That's right. There was no quarter casks or bombing it with big flavors of other casks to cover up for a multitude of sins. Here we were.
Well, you didn't really have a multitude of sins.
There was no,
and that's really the good
sins
part.
to cover, and that's exactly the point. That is exactly the point. So yeah, very, very pleased about the transparency.
Yeah.
Yes, a proud first step. Absolutely so.
What do you guys think? Yeah, you want a bottle? I get one. That's it.
Check the auction houses.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Houses.
No. There are some at auction. Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, there are.
All right. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next one, which is
Torabhaig Altglaun.
Do you just make these words up so we can't say them?
That's exactly
because that looks like Altglean.
Well, it does if you read it with Anglophone.
Yeah, well, if you read it properly, yes, it does.
Properly. Yes.
No. This, my theory is the Scotch just mess with the rest of the world, and because every time I drink these things with a person from Scotland, they keep changing the pronunciation the more we drink, and I said, "You're just screwing with me now, aren't you?" But Altglean.
So that'll do.
Will that do?
Yeah,
all right.
Well done.
I feel like that'll do, pig. That'll do.
Don't butcher my language anymore.
I'm not trying to. Trust me, I'm not trying to. So this is no more than 30 barrels distilled in cask in 2017 and 18. So you're starting to work out the kinks, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think hopefully you'll notice a slightly increased degree of complexity here in
46 again, guys.
This
just
tasting one. So this came out really not long after Torabhaig 2017, and what the differences here are. The key differences are that the first one, the 2017, was 55 ppms in the grain.
Mm-hmm.
This was 77 ppms in the grain, and this time it was 80% first fill bourbon and 20% refill. So that showed a couple of things. It showed, first of all, that when we started distilling, we thought 55 ppms, gosh, that's really heavy. Can the stills tame that? And there was a school of thought saying, well, we'll be coming down from there. But in point of fact, by running the stills so slowly and cutting as early as we did, it actually became apparent that increasing the ppms in the grain would help get to that.
Well, you lose a lot. The distillation process loses a lot of the ppms anyways, correct?
Distillation does, absolutely. And aging.
And then
afterward.
your cut, and then your short cut, so to speak.
Yep.
That's going to eat into it a little bit too, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, the first thing you're doing is adding a lot of water. That's called dilution. But then you've got distillation, which concentrates, and then you've got a second distillation, which concentrates again. But you've got heads and tails, which subtract. And then you do a dilution down to 63.5 before barreling. So that dilutes again. And then you've got aging with oxygen and so on and so forth. So the end number is very different from the beginning number. Yes. So, for example, with the 2017, we started with 55 ppms in the grain. What was in your glass there was 17 ppms. And the Altglaun that you've got now, 77 ppms in the grain, came down to 17 ppms residual. So that gives you an idea. But it's but ppms on their own is not enough, because that's an addition of different phenolic families. We referenced the cresol family earlier, which is the one that we don't really focus on.
You're not trying to get that
Yes.
one.
And so it's the makeup of those as well that determines very much the style in the glass. Yes.
What did you guys think of this one? Like that one? Again, it's a good, we're talking about progression here. And I think that's sort of important on this.
This one, but first of all, it's all very well building the distillery and thinking of ideas, and the stills come in and you start distilling. But after 2 years or so, you start to think, we're going to put this into the market soon, and it's not going to be our opinions that count anymore.
Right.
It's going to be your opinions that count. And so,
well, I think that's a lot of mistakes that a lot of people make in almost every industry is making things for their own personal taste and not for what everybody else is going to like.
yes,
You
that's
know,
right.
I mean, there is a balance out there.
There is absolutely.
You know, we talk about, Rachel and I talk about this all the time. If we bought for the weird stuff that we like,
Yep.
I'd have a basement full of whiskey that we bought and no one buying it.
No,
Or very few people buying it.
exactly. No, I mean, we want to make a lot of friends in the world. Certainly by the time we get to
Free whiskey will do that, I found.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
free
that does
whiskey.
help.
Yeah.
That does help.
Whole things like this, and you just they just drink it. You know?
And they all leave your new friend. Yes.
That's right.
Yes, so the whiskey changed in terms of the in-grain phenolics, in terms of the residual phenolics, and how also they were put together. But also the result of the huge amount of copper contact in the early cut point meant that we were asking a lot less of the barrels to tame the whiskey. And so again, we're still not that old, but we're already cutting down the first fill bourbon to include some refill, which is
That's going to have less wood influence. You're going
Totally.
more to a neutral barrel.
Yes, exactly right. So again, naked whiskey showing and showing really, really well. And
This
there's
one
some
sits like
beautiful-
right in the middle of your tongue too when you take this, and it's almost like a little bit of like a citrusy sort of flavor to this, as well as the peatiness. This is where you start seeing the peat as a flavor enhancer.
Yeah,
You know, there's a lot more. It's bringing out other flavors.
we certainly want a sort of holistic experience,
Right.
almost like a perfect sphere, no beginning, no end, no hole in the middle.
Well, it's called balance. I mean,
yes.
the balanced whiskeys at the end of the day are usually the ones that people continually drink.
Yeah, no, exactly. People say to me, "How old is it?" And I say, "If it's balanced, it's old enough."
Yeah.
No, I think there's some wonderful nuance in here. You talk about the citric note. It's almost heading towards a little bit of smoked scallop, but not quite getting there. I think there's some real beautiful savory elements, some sweet elements, it's showing really, really well. And this was a step up, because in the run-up to 2017, we were obviously very nervous about how the market would receive our whiskey. Having been so well received, you're then very nervous immediately about the next one. Well, we've got
Yeah,
to
we
be
want to
better than the
disappoint
last
everybody,
time.
right?
Exactly,
Yeah, we
exactly.
better be going forward.
So-
Yes, Jim. What does the name mean?
If only I knew. No. An alt is a burn, or maybe you'd prefer the word a creek here, and a glown is a valley. So the Valley Creek, it's one of our water sources. And so you're drinking water from that creek in that glass right now.
Nice. Now you said you had two water sources. There's the creek, and what else?
There's
a spring?
there's another. There's two
creeks.
Two creeks.
Two
There's
creeks,
there's
okay.
the Altbrecher, which means the speckled burn as well. So
Okay.
that's the two one, and that will possibly be the name of one of our future whiskies.
Oh, create another unpronounceable name.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Well, no,
No,
we'll
it's-
enjoy watching you butcher it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
thank you. You're welcome. Listen, we just buy and take your whiskey. That's all we. That's all we're
right.
good for.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. All right, the third whiskey that we have
Yes.
tonight is called what? I don't.
Oh, this you're going to kill me for this one.
Yeah, I'm already looking at
This is Torabhaig Crochnamonia.
crack pneumonia.
Yep.
I got that one.
Yep.
I did.
Nailed it.
I nailed it. I'll never do that
Absolutely
again.
right.
Don't ask me to say
Absolutely
it twice. I'll be all right. The Legacy series. This is chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Yes.
And this one is still the same ABV. We're going to keep
Yep.
them all at
We're-
90, 92 or 46%.
No.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah, for now, yes, but there's every second chapter is getting a bit of a batch strength farewell. So the last whiskey is the batch strength of the second whiskey.
Okay.
Tonight. But in terms of the journey, yes, it's at 46% or 92 proof, and that's really the aim ultimately for the 10-year-old. Now, maybe that changes. I'll tell you about the journey and how often it's changed. It's quite a few times. But yeah, this is chapter 3 on our journey to 10-year-old. And this is I'd like you to think of this as an evolution in the style. It's a bit like a child growing up, and it sort of maybe steps out of line and you bring it back into line, and then it's but good. And
you've never been brought up in an Italian household.
No, that's right. You step out of line.
Yeah,
You just encourage it to step further out of line. Yeah.
Mother wore clogs, and she could throw those things around the corner.
So, in that first year, we were changing one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, another way of saying that is, of course, is we stopped doing one thing at a time. So that's why these are finite. But so there's only so different it's going to be.
Right.
And so this is the next step. And very roughly speaking, this is 9/10 the same as the last one you drank, the same as chapter
So it's 2017, 2018, but the barrel.
No, we were still using some 2017 foundation at this stage. But yeah, no, it's not a finishing barrel. What we did is roughly 90% the same as the Alt Glown, but the Alt Glown had gotten older in the meantime. So I did notice a sort of silkier or nicely oily improvement to that. But the other small percentages are mostly Oloroso and a wee bit of Pedro Jimenez cask. Because whilst a light, delicate, elegant whiskey lends itself very clearly to first fill bourbon particularly, that didn't mean that we forswore all the sherry characteristics, but we certainly didn't want to swamp it in sherry and just produce
a touch.
Exactly. So could we get some of the nice sultanery, raisiny, almondy, walnutty, maybe orange rindy characteristics in there without losing the DNA of Torabhaig? And so we ended up with quite a small percentage of sherry cask in there. And that's another thing for you joining us on the journey. It's very interesting for you to watch this happen, because you can see how a little difference can make quite a big difference. And it's also a very rare opportunity, because the big names out there in Scotland have been established for generations stylistically.
Right.
You know what you're buying, and it's great, by the way. But this is an unusual opportunity to come along with a distillery who is still finding its way to its 10-year-old style, and will be till we get there.
Okay.
We'll probably be till the 11th hour.
What do you guys think? Like this one? I like it. I like the fact that you're right. The sherry and the Pedro, the Oloroso and the Pedro Jimenez don't state the distillate still underneath.
Yes.
And they sort of work together rather than beat it over the head with flavor, a different flavor component.
If we'd gone outside of the small percentage that we used, that's quite possibly exactly what would have happened. And I remember Neil putting this together, and they started with a much higher percentage in the lab. I think it was maybe as high as 25%. Essentially, they pushed it till they ruined it, and then said, right, well, we're not going past that. Let's come back from there.
That's a good way of doing it. I mean, that a lot of people do that. I mean, we've done that when we've done, this tastes great. Okay, let's go this far to make sure that we got it.
That's right.
And then you go that far and you go, oh, we had it.
Yeah.
Let's go back there and let's come back. Let's dial that back.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Giovanni. And it's also one of those type of things I talk about this all the time. It's like, again, the two sherries should be in there to like enhance the flavor and not overpowering it. There should be the salt to the steak and not the steak.
Absolutely. I mean, this aromatic, delicate, elegant whiskey is the DNA.
Right.
But that doesn't mean there can't be other flavors, obviously, or we'd just be talking about things that aren't flavors. And so again, finding the way with these whiskeys, and I do think, interestingly, the we had some barrels, when the sherry barrels arrived, we rinsed some of them through, because you don't know what's going to happen. You're putting your whiskey in, you don't know what's coming
Right.
out the other end. So we rinsed some of them through before we filled them up to see what the difference would be.
Okay.
And these are mostly rinse casks.
Really? I like it. I like this one. It's quite nice. All right. So what is the next one we're going to try?
Well, the next one
It's not available
is
yet.
not available yet.
So you got, I think, like some of the first people to try this?
No, not some of the first people. You are the first people to try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of responsibility that goes with that, just so you know.
So this
I'll tell you the rules later.
This is going to be chapter 4. And if you have a look at this body of water here,
Yeah.
that is called the Sound of Slate. And guess what our
laughing.
whiskies are going to be called?
Slate.
Sound of Slate.
Sound of Slate. Okay.
Yeah. And you'll be pleased to know we're majoring in English on this one rather
there you
than
go.
Gaelic. Yes.
It's about time.
Yeah. Yes. There we go. So
All I can think of now is I'm a New Englander. All I can think now is sleet, right? We just got through all that. Don't. This one better be much more palatable than the sleet that we just went through.
oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
Well, if it isn't, we've got a problem.
There you go.
So this is this time there's no sherry cask again. There is a very substantial amount of first fill bourbon in here. Very small amount of refill bourbon again, but this time there is some virgin American heavy toast.
Okay.
And this is very, very interesting. There's a tasting note came out of our office. One of our colleagues called it kettle corn, but that only works here in America. I don't think anybody anywhere else in the world knows what that is.
What?
But that was a little bit of
craziness. They don't have kettle corn?
No.
Uncivilized people. I don't know.
No.
I don't know if we can talk anymore.
No. Sorry. Yeah, we live in ruins like that. So yeah.
Kettle corn. No, kettle corn.
But there's a very beguiling sort of savory note in here.
Definitely.
Alongside there's some honey, there's some vanilla, there's the very typically now we can say at fourth whiskey in Torabhaig DNA, but there's a new little savory note coming in which I find very, very appealing.
I see where they got the kettle corn thing, though. I really do.
The power of suggestion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh no, I had one
no.
last night. I threw out pineapple last night, and I had some people that went for the bait.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah. Pineapple. Yeah, definitely. I'm like, there's no pineapple in this whatsoever.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you what you're tasting.
No, that's right. I did it with this one, and I started talking, so I thought I may as well finish. But I don't like to do it normally. I'd much prefer that you tasted it yourselves. I think that a tasting note from one person is just an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What we do for our tasting notes is there's 2, 3, 4 of us write an opinion, and then we all put it together and we take out the common ground, and that becomes our tasting note.
That's a good way of doing it. What do you guys think of this one? All right. Jim, how many bottles? Just want to know. We're also going to, we are going to take tonight. I think you got stuff over there. All right. You're going to see, if you want one of these, you're going to see Brian afterwards. We are going to take names on it because none of these have been huge releases, as you can probably gather, right? We get a couple cases, we get this and that, but Brian has assured me that whoever orders one will get
yes.
one.
No. There won't be a problem in that.
Oh no, there better not be.
But you can see the label up front here is just one from the lab because it's not bottled yet. That's a bottling tank sample, and that will be here. I'd love to tell you May, but let's be honest and say June.
June, yeah.
And so
under promise and over deliver, something like that.
Whichever way around it is.
Yeah, something like that.
But
we're gonna hedge the bet.
But I took this just before I left the UK last week, and this is the first time it's ever been shown anywhere. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
They love being first for things.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
We're sure you're special. But you're special too. I'm saying, I said one guy, Kavork's over there. Me too, Gus. I'm special too. Yes, you're special too. I don't know if that's a good thing, by the way. Didn't say special in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and you're not no, and you're not lab rats. You get to actually have something delicious.
But
I think, anyways. Did you guys like this? All right. Well, then, yes.
just out of interest, do you see them getting discernibly older, or do you just see some slightly different styles, or do you think it's a flat line? How do you perceive it?
Do you think there's a progression? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Do you see this? Do you see there is a sort of I think the flavor components and the quality are moving upwards, but I think that the DNA of what they're doing is still prevalent.
Yep.
It's there. It's still there. I mean, I don't think you're losing.
Yes.
I don't think you're losing distillery characteristic by the little additions. You agree? Yeah. Right. You wouldn't necessarily say they're getting older.
Yes.
You're just going to say there's changes to them. Yeah,
Um,
and I think that's fair
yeah.
because I don't think anything tasted too young that we were trying.
No,
anyways.
I
don't.
agree with that. I
and to
think
be
the
honest with you.
2017 possibly shows younger, but the rest
Yeah.
of them, I agree with you. I think that in terms of that they're well balanced, and that's
Yeah,
the most important thing. End of. Yeah.
After the first one, which I think is a good start because it wasn't terrible. It was solid.
Yeah.
But I think the other one, the elegance factor that you're looking for is really showing in the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yes. 3 and 4, you think there's a definite step? Yeah. Bigger flavors in sort of a rounder, sort of more like balanced, maybe flavors going on between 3 and 4. There is some creaminess going on there.
Yes,
too.
yes, 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 yes.
There's a definite mouthfeel, and which I don't think it's as noticeable right away because you're not chill filtering. So it's always had a fuller mouthfeel even from
Yep.
the get-go.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't think
True.
that's good, but it's really good. You get the high notes throughout everything. I think that's true too.
One of the things I've enjoyed with Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, and I'm hoping that this will also happen now with Chapter 4, is that as I go around the world, each one of them has a champion. Some people prefer Chapter 2, some people prefer Chapter 3, and I'm sure some will prefer Chapter 4, and some will still say, "Oh, I still like Chapter 2."
Well,
I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, we'll see how it all evens out during the steel cage death match if you're going to champion stuff. So we'll see who survives. But no, really delicious whiskey. And I think that's really cool. And I was like, why isn't there a box for that one? That seemed weird. And because I couldn't see the label.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see it now.
I can see it now.
Yes, it's just stuck on.
Yeah, just stuck on label. All right, they're really good. All right, so the last one tonight
Yes.
is what?
Is Alt Glown batch strength.
Oh, okay.
So Chapter 2 got a batch strength farewell. Thanks for playing. It was nice knowing you. Goodbye. See you. It's been good fun. And that was the last bottling before Chapter 3 came into being. And the Sound of Slate will, towards the end of this year, also get a batch strength offering, but that will be right at the end of the year. So
the beginning of next year. So maybe for Go Whiskey Week 26.
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, I'm really hoping it'll be here in November.
Yeah, and that means December, which means it'll be
January, which means February, which means see you next year.
See you next year. That'll be great.
So this is to say this is exactly the same as the Alt Glown 46% is not quite true. It's slightly older, just slightly, nothing much.
Yeah, but you know what?
This is
wow.
So this is really a 5-year-old. It's 61.1% alcohol or 122.2 proof.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to give you the New England seal of approval.
Are you?
That ain't bad.
Okay, thank you. Where is that?
That's right there.
No. This is remarkably well balanced for a whiskey of that age at that strength, and that is again a source of enormous pleasure for us to see, because it means that everything's working properly. The stills are doing their job, the barrels are doing their job, that we've got the right things doing the right things with each other together. It's come together beautifully, and this is really very, very good. And I must tell you, this got 95 in the Whiskey Advocate last year.
That's really good. Try this with a drop of water on this one. Or you can do the Randall Bird method, take a sip and then drink your whiskey and try it that way. I should give my plug, right? The official water of Go Whiskey Week, Icelandic glacial water, with a pH of 8.4. Perfect for whiskey. If you just add a drop of water in that, wait till you see the flavor explosion on that. That's quite good.
Quite good. Is that
That's
the New
quite
England
good.
seal of approval?
No,
Yep.
no, we only use negatives when it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The ultimate is that doesn't suck.
Yeah. That's it. Okay. That's the ultimate.
That's the ultimate.
There's nowhere
to go from there.
Non plus ultra.
Johnny is saying no crackers in bed. No problem. Really good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, it just amped up the flavor so much. I thought it was going to be overbearing, but it's not.
No.
I thought it would be overbearing. Sometimes it's just, it ends up being like an alcohol bomb, and it just dulls everything up, but that does not do that.
No. Again, I think you're absolutely right. What's very interesting is it shows that the reduction to 46%, that you do lose some things along that way. But again, horses for courses. Some people prefer the 46, some people prefer the batch strength. But for me, it's quite a moody thing. It's sometimes I'll prefer the 46,
right?
And sometimes I'll prefer the batch strength.
Everybody always says, well, they always talk about how many bottles you have open.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of bottles open. It's like, yeah, it's what mood is striking me today.
Yes.
And then I pick my whiskey accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you're all the same, but we have a lot of bottles open. But you don't go rummaging around thinking, what am I drinking tonight? You going for a bottle. You know what you're going for. You can't explain why you're going for that one. You just know that you are.
Right.
And that's the great thing. Don't ever try to explain why you're going for it. Don't overanalyze it. Just go and get it, pour it in a glass, and drink it. Add water if you want to, not if you don't. Sometimes you might feel like it, sometimes you don't. Don't ask yourself why.
Right.
Sometimes I put a bit of water in there, sometimes I don't. I have no idea why.
It's whatever strikes me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Well, listen, what did you guys think about I'm not going to call it this way because I think it's really cool. The other really good distillery on Skye. How's that? Because I think it is really good, and I think it shows a ton of promise. I mean, we've only just begun.
The Carpenters.
Yes. I knew you'd get that one.
Why, am I old enough?
Yes. That's okay. I am too. But really, I think this is a journey that we get to go on, and it's not it's not a lot of times that you get to do that with a company. So
yeah,
enjoy the ride.
Yeah, no, I hope you'll come on the journey with us. But,
yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you very much for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I had a couple things to go with you guys, but we're done here. Hey, everybody on Facebook, this has really been great. You can find this at It's the Liquor Talking, wherever you get your podcasts, or you can do it on Julio's Liquors Facebook page. You can get it there. But really, there's nothing like being here live. You should have been here.